one.
Here we are, bottom of the Smash Mountain. I would like to thank my Patreon supporters over at patreon.com/bsmpod for continuing to support me and what I'm doing. Big shout outs to my senior producers in particular. We have my mom and dad, love y'all. We have Ventus Official and PK Smokey. And speaking of PK Smokey, the most recent breakthrough in the Eternal project is coming out with the voiced episode 1, like actual voicing over the graphic novel. So for those of you who are interested in checking that out, there you go. Now you can check it out. And also joining me tonight, we have Mishmash Gaming's very own Seven, who is deep in the sauce of college and making time for me to come onto the podcast, has a real microphone because they are also a voice actor. Let's go. That's super fun. Something I always thought would be fun to do, but Seven's actually out here doing it, dealing with .wav files and everything. And Seven, I appreciate you joining me once again. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, man. I'm so excited.
So we had met at the Baltimore monthly tournament down there, like for those of you who don't know, Baltimore is a city in Maryland. Big city. Let's go Ravens. So I went down there with some other 717 gamers from Lancaster. Shout outs to Bard, aka Neil, he and a couple of others. The tournament down there. There's a weekly as well. So anybody who's near Baltimore should check that out. Okay. We met there, you and I noticed you mainly because you were wearing an MMG jersey, but also because I had seen your Sheik while doing a couple of commentary spots with Sloth and some of the other people who were there as well. And you didn't have the most amazing first place finish or anything like that. And I was curious to hear your perspective on how the tournament went. So I came up and said hello. And then just eventually end with inviting you onto the podcast. That felt a little selfish, but I didn't immediately start with that. I don't remember starting with that. I remember asking you how you felt the tournament went, but here we are a couple months later. That was in July already. Jeez.
Oh my gosh. Time flies by.
And so we were talking about how you're busy with college and stuff. There's all kinds of right now stuff happening, but I always love hearing about how people get into Melee. So I'd be interested in hearing from you first, if you don't mind, starting at the beginning. How did you get into Melee, Seven?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so it started back in middle school. Someone who was a then friend, kind of after middle school, we drifted apart. Got me into Melee. Originally we were both playing League, and then he found, I think it was Evo, what would that be? Evo 2016, I think it was Armada Hungry Box, and he was like, Stefano, we got to start playing this game. And so on my $300 laptop, I downloaded Melee, I plugged in my Xbox 360 controller, and I got to work. And then after we stopped becoming friends, I just became a huge Smash Ladder grinder, and then that took me to here.
Okay, so Anther's Ladder, the original delay-based netcode you were grinding on there. I know not a whole lot, but I know that Ginger was like the #1 player for a while on Anther's Ladder, that kind of thing. So there was also open chat. You could say anything you wanted. So very dangerous, potentially explosive situation. So I'm interested in hearing from you. What were some of the things that you think could come over to Slippy right now, and what were some things that you don't want to come over to Slippy right now?
Okay, so I actually met all of my friends from Smash Ladder because the second that my old friends and I weren't friends anymore, I was really desperate for people, for friends in the community, right? And so I made a netplay crew named Synergy, and I made a Discord, and I would post every freaking day in chat, and I'll be like, hey, I started a netplay crew, please join me. And that was back in 2016, and I ended up making lifetime friends from that group. People such as Warmer, Akir, Eve, some other people are Axis, Harlow, or Hollowy, I think is what she goes by when she plays Melee. All of these people are like lifetime friends of mine that I made through that server. So really I love the open chat, but it shouldn't be there. Don't. Slippy made a wonderful decision in having like the maximum toxicity being spamming LOL and then leaving.
Yes.
You know,
or refusing to press start and beginning the next match. That too.
Yeah, I got some awful messages back in the day. It was the Wild West of Melee.
So I heard one name in particular, and I want to clarify. Are we talking about Penn State Axis or New Jersey Axis?
New Jersey Axis, TL Axis.
Oh, yes, let's go. New Jersey Axis is a friend of the show. Axis has been on the podcast before. I love Axis, who enters quite the amount of stuff for somebody who's literally running tournaments as well. Just all melee pilled. So much love to Axis. Let's go.
Yeah, I love Todd. He's a great friend of mine. If you're watching this, hi Todd, love you.
Big shout outs. Let's go, Todd. You know what? I'm going to try to type that in as I also move on to the next bit, where you are now getting into the game enough that when 2019 rolls around, you're a few years in. Are you still playing as Sheik at this point? Are you experimenting with characters, going to live in-person tournaments, or are you still mostly just staying on Smash Ladder?
So the float, or like the timeline for me, was from like 2016 to 2018. I only really entered net play stuff. And for about the first year and a half, 2 years, I didn't have a main. I switched around. Like, you can ask any of my friends from back then. I tried maining about every single character in the freaking cast. I tried maining. And fun fact, Akir, Joey from Florida, he would do a thing where if I ever tried playing a mid tier or a low tier, he would play as toxic against me as possible to get me to switch. But he was like, this is the real world. I tried maining Mewtwo and he would Falco laser spam against me. And I was like, this sucks. And he was like, yeah, and this is your life if you main Mewtwo. So we can credit him and my other friends with eventually getting me to Sheik around 2018. And then from 2018 to now, I've only played Sheik. If you ever play against my secondaries, they're absolutely awful.
Okay, but all right, you were just talking about specifically Falco lasers, and I always feel that when I play my not very good Sheik, somebody just spams lasers against me, and I go, oh, all I can do is jump over these things because I don't know how to. I can't power shield them. I'm not good enough to be able to do that. Let's just start out by saying I'm not good enough to go better than 0-2 at the moment. So I'm going, this is so frustrating. Sheik is so frustrating. Then I watch somebody like J-Mook or J-Flex play, and I go, oh, Sheik is amazing. But that's so the problem. I'm not able to bridge the gap, you know.
I credit a lot of my, like, so for example, I'm like, not to toot my own horn, not to be regular, I'm very good at like power shielding, nair out of shield. A lot of my out of shield options are very strong, and a lot of that was because there was I think it was like 2019, I went to my grandparents' place for about a month. I had no internet connection, I had a CRT, and I had Uncle Punch. Uncle Punch like just came out at the time, and I grinded reaction tech chasing, power shielding, omps attacking. And those things are like still really solid in my play today because I was like a monk in the mountains, but just for 31 days. I shit you not, Cypher. There was a day where I tech chased for 5.5 hours in a row. All I did was stare at the screen. Like, I did nothing but practice solo practice. Like, it was actually at the time because the internet was really bad there. The only person who was willing to play with me was Todd. That's how me and him met, was I helped him try to improve at the time because he just got into the game, and he was willing to put up with my horrible Wi-Fi.
That's so funny to me, that just imagining someone actually going to the lengths and effort that we all sort of joke about a little bit. And I think there are real tech chasing grinders and tech skill grinders in general. They are out there. I love watching, on the very spare occasions that I get to do this, the early morning JoJo streams where JoJo is just grinding out certain tech skill or just simply practicing. And that's the commitment that JoJo has to getting better with Falcon up in the New York area. So shout outs to JoJo. I have such a hard time doing the solo practice thing. So for you, it's of course, you say to yourself, well, what else am I going to do? I'm really invested in the game. But I don't know how realistic it is to say to everybody who says they like melee, like myself, now go and grind tech skill, my son. I don't feel inspired to do it when somebody tells me to. One of our tech monsters, I'm talking about the kitchen table in Lancaster. The kitchen table can do so many crazy things as Fox, and you know it's because he spends so much time practicing, and he says to me, just a little bit at a time, when he's encouraging me to do it myself, and I go, it's going to take me such a long time, though, and that's what I struggle with.
It does. So obviously don't do what I did. And honestly, the only reason why I was able to do that was because I was like 15 years old at the time. I had nothing else to do over the summer. Now being a college student and having to manage, voice acting, my fraternity, my friends, melee, I don't have time to barely play, let alone solo practice. So I don't blame you. But that being said, those things, in my opinion, are like actually a cheat code to start doing a lot better at like the low to intermediate level, is just really grinding punish game. So just do it like 15 minutes. Do it 2 times, 15 minutes a day. When you wake up, before you, like whenever you have a melee session going, before you start your melee session, and once your melee session ends, give yourself 15 minutes each time. Move around, practice tech chasing a bit, but don't go like too overboard. And eventually, like, give yourself like a month of doing that. By the end of it, you'll feel a lot better, in my opinion.
You know what? That's a really good idea. I like the way that you phrase it. If you're going to play melee anyway, just give yourself time, not just to sit down and start playing and mindlessly side being, because that is something that I'm guilty of. I could just do a little bit of the tech skill stuff, just a little bit before and after. I like that idea. That's really cool. I was at the local last night, and before we started playing in bracket, there were people who were trying to pay attention to the TO while they were going through their whole welcome to the first local back from COVID, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just trying to do wave dashes because I'm still not very good. Like I said, I don't play melee often enough, and I've started very, very late in this whole metagame process. It's not like I started playing competitive melee years and years ago. That was only in last year of 2021. So I was just focusing on doing that. I'm sorry, Sean, I did hear you while you were welcoming everybody to the tournament. I was just also trying to get a little bit of last minute practice in before bracket. Still went 0-2 though.
Hey, one of these days, I have a friend who I have a friend, Flip, Alex, who just got into melee like 2 years ago, and he's only really started taking it seriously the past few months. And I mean, he broke 0-2 for like the first time over the summer, but he's still like 1-2 or 0-2. We all start somewhere.
Oh, and then there are people who occasionally, this doesn't happen super often once you get to a certain level, but you can still potentially go 0-2 if you're not paying attention, or if you're saying, I'm just going to do secondaries today. People can still surprise you. You know, you haven't heard of somebody and they go, oh, I play Slippy. That was one of my favorite things about Riptide, was hearing that a couple of people who most of the community didn't necessarily know were actually really good because they were just grinding Slippy, and then were able to go better than 0-2, that we're able to go 1-2 or 2-2, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. I kind of did that. Actually, no, I kind of sucked when I began at MDVA, but I would say I went from like placing like 1-2 to like 5 tournaments later, starting to hit like 9th, 7th, like that area of we had a monthly back in the day called Unity that Tyler Swift or Dan hosted. And I think Cypher Phoenix also worked on that one. But yeah, I like quickly started getting like better and better, and people were like, where like this kid comes to a tournament, leaves for 3 months and come back and then like does like significantly better. What's going on? And it was like, at the time I didn't have anybody to drive me besides my parents. So, you know, they would only drive me out an hour and a half there and back every now and then. But Smash Ladder allowed me to continue grinding and getting to where I was today.
And proving the people wrong, of going like it's that meme of the Doge basically being like, frame delay, eating my inputs, and you're the strong one going, that's still good practice, I'm still playing melee.
I was playing on a laptop with like horrible like 60 hertz laptop, awful input delay, and I was still playing just because I didn't at the time, like, you know, ignorance is bliss. I was just too dumb to realize that I wasn't playing real melee. I only play on CRTs at tournaments and stuff like that.
And you didn't play enough of the CRT that you were going back and going, oh, this is like night and day. You might have said to yourself, oh, it's okay, it's better on the CRTs at the tournament, but this is still doable.
Yeah, and especially at the time, a lot of the things that I was learning weren't necessarily tied to you know, that very like you know, I didn't need the fluidity of a CRT or a 144 hertz monitor to start to get an understanding of, you know, how does neutral work? What are my options, you know, against these characters at low percent, medium percent? How do I confirm into kills? What are my edge guards? Things like that.
And so how did COVID change your relationship to melee, especially after Slippy came out?
Oh my God, I became an addict. It was so I should specify. I like Sigma grind setting my way through 9th and 10th grade. Like, you know, got a lot of AP credits, got a lot of stuff out of the way. By 11th grade, when COVID hit in March, all of my classes I had like A's in, and the teachers weren't doing anything else that was worthwhile, so I could just blow off my schoolwork and play melee all day. And then when I hit senior year, I was only taking 2 classes at the high school and 1 at the local community college because I had done everything else I needed to graduate. So literally I would log on for like AP Calc at 9 in the morning, get out at like 10:30, and then play Melee for the rest of the day. I was playing Melee like multiple hours every day, entering like 3 tournaments a day. I was fiending because I had nothing else to do.
And you're starting to get really good now. You're the kind of player who is making all those Falcos feel like I can never get out of these grabs. Oh, but I can quit out. Ooh.
Oh my gosh, it's awful. There's I love just especially on unranked, doing grab as like the very first neutral opener, just like reading them running in on the ground. And I'll like, I think my favorite was like, it was like 2.3 seconds in the game. We like got in, ran down, boost grabbed, LRA start, quit out. I was like, oh my god, Slippy's ruining us. We're animals, goddammit.
And so now that you're so busy with college work, and we can talk about that a little bit, but I'm curious just to tie these two thoughts together, where you used to play a lot of unranked Melee and direct with people as well on Slippy, is when ranked eventually does release and everybody starts to learn, I can't just quit out. How much do you think that's going to benefit people like you, where you have been born on the internet, molded by the internet? You didn't see a CRT until you were a grown man, that kind of thing. That's from Dark Knight Rises. And so yeah. I'm curious about if you're feeling as if your chances to have a really nice opener for Melee ranked on Slippy, what your chances would be to masterfully take over the ranked scape.
Okay, so before Smash Ladder eventually became less and less active, in kind of the peak of like when it was COVID and everybody was playing, but Slippy hadn't come out yet.
Yes.
I think I was 52nd, 53rd on the ladder. And I was like master rank. And that was, I know that this is so cringy, but you gotta hear me out. When I started playing, Smash Ladder was my life. And I was like bronze 2, bronze 3, you know, and I like vowed to myself, I was like 13. I was like, before I never touch this website again, I'm hitting master. Like that is I knew that like Grand Smasher was like out of my league. That's like the really, really good, like that's like top 100 guys, right? But I was like, I can hit master. I can do this. And like 6 years later, I did it. And now I'm kind of want to see, I'm sure that it's going to be a lot harder to get into those higher ranks with how many, just the sheer amount of people that are going to be playing Slippy online.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Slippy ranked versus Smash Ladder. But I would like to see myself in like a platinum, diamond, whatever that rank ends up being. Definitely above like gold level, but who knows? Maybe I get thrown in the top echelon. We'll see.
But it's tough because like we're talking about, you've gotten into voice acting. That's something else that you've really fallen in love with since you've started doing it. And then with college, you are in you're not just doing classes, you're also in a theater production, which is insane. So 2. I'm curious in hearing from you. Wait, did you say 2?
I'm in 2. Oh my God, I'm losing my mind. So, sorry, I didn't interrupt you. What was your question?
I was saying there's something wrong with you. No, please tell me. I would love to hear about both theater productions. Which one is your favorite? You can't pick favorites, but you can, and you probably will, unless you cop out, which is fine. It's all good. You can answer it however you want to. In the words of Sean Evans, you don't have to if you don't want to.
Okay, so my for reference, I go to a university in Illinois known as Bradley University. It's in the middle of bumfuck nowhere. It's about a 13-hour drive from Maryland. But our fall productions are September 16th to 17th. We're doing Voices from Ukraine, which is a composite. It's a collection of a lot of like few scene, like 3 scene or even just monologues, like 1 act plays from Ukrainian playwrights that are being basically commissioned by this group to create plays about the war going on in Russia, and they get rewarded like money, like a grant in return, right? And so then the whole point of the productions is that it's free to come in, but it's a charity thing. So anything that's donated goes straight to Ukrainian relief. And I think that's the one that I'm really passionate about right now, because first of all, rehearsal for the other production hasn't started yet, but also this one feels more meaningful. The other production we're doing is Hearts Like Fists, which is like a noir comedy. Right. And it's fun. It's enjoyable. There's, fun fight choreography going on. There's a lot of funny scenes, but there's nothing really there below the surface to like take away from the show. And that's like the thing that got me into theater was like, I want to have an influence on these people. I want these people to come in and see my performance and see my production and walk away like, maybe thinking about, how they treat other people, how they treat themselves, how they treat the world, their, thoughts on worldviews. And so Voices from Ukraine is giving me the opportunity to do that. And I couldn't be more grateful.
That's really cool to hear. And it probably makes everybody who's involved with the other production feel kind of silly for not also being involved with Voices of Ukraine. How much crossover is there?
It's actually funny you say that. I'm the only person who was casted in both. They said, I shit you not. These will have exclusive casting. There will be no double casting because otherwise, schedules is going to be awful. And then they said, Stefano, you're in both. And I was like, I'm in both. And they were like, yes. And luckily they only gave me 2 minor characters. I have I think a total of 3 scenes, which is fine, cool. But still, oh my gosh, I'm going to be on a rehearsal schedule of Monday to Saturday from last week to November 16th. So, and also rehearsals are 6:30 to 10:30. So God have mercy on my soul.
Yes. I feel so sorry for you, except when I remember that you did this to yourself. You did this to yourself. You auditioned for both.
I did do this to myself. It's actually, I only auditioned we auditioned for all 3. So there's a Christmas Carol radio play, which is going on in December. And so they decided to cast me in both. So I did audition. I did put myself in that situation, but they also were the ones who double casted me.
But you could still, you're not forced to be when you're imagine if I'm just minding my own business and Bradley University calls me and says, oh, by the way, we casted you. And I go, wait, what? They're like, yeah, you have to get out here. Or we're sending the Bradley ninjas to come and get you. And I go, I have a life here. And they just get that look in their eyes when they go, you can't get away.
You're coming in. And that's actually kind of what they sent the Bradley Ninjas after me. I wasn't planning on auditioning this semester. I was like, there's a lot going on in my life. There's a lot of things that I want to work on. Maybe I don't. And then the head of the theater department or the heads of the theater department were like, you should really audition for this. And I was like, nah. And they were like, you're auditioning for this. And I was like, okay. Their reasoning was very justifiable. I'm in the performance concentration. And they were like, hey, it would be really beneficial for you to start auditioning and being a part of productions. That's where you're going to be getting most of your practice as an actor. So, really think about doing this. And I was like, I guess, what's the worst that can happen?
Just being insanely busy and not having time to be on my podcast. I can't believe it.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm teasing.
End the day.
I am teasing. I didn't get back to you soon enough after our July conversation because I have a schedule of stuff out, right? And then I go to you 7 and you go, I'm going to school. This is going to be very hard to do. So this is actually a credit to you that you're making the time. I mean, I wanted to talk about voice acting, so let's do that. I'm interested in hearing what show specifically made you think to yourself, this person is doing such a cool thing right now, and I would love for it to be something out of the blue, I guess maybe what's his name, King of the Hill, Hank Hill, excuse me, but it's probably not Hank Hill. Who got you in?
So I have a poster right here of Ryuji from Persona 5.
All right.
And basically the story behind this was there's 3 voice actors that were in a lot of shows together. There's Max Middleman, Robbie Damon, and Ray Chase. They were doing a marathon live stream of them playing through Persona 5, and that was a huge thing that got me into voice acting. I commissioned a signed print, and I just put in the special thank you note. I was like, hey, Max Middleman, your role as Ryuji was a huge part in getting me into voice acting. I recently booked my first official gig, and I couldn't thank you enough. And then he was like, oh my gosh, can we all and they were all super excited for me. And they were like, we can't wait to see you in more stuff. Hopefully we get to work on projects together. And then he wrote, to Stefano, congratulations on your first gig, Max Middleman. And I have carried this around with me since. It's been one of my favorite keepsakes. And honestly, that's my goal before I die. I want to work on a project with Max Middleman.
I think that you have a very good chance of making that happen. We're already off to a really good start. I mean, how cool. It's basically to you, if I were to have somebody who I would really look up to, say like Bill Russell recently passed away, and I always thought that Bill Russell was the coolest. I always thought it would be cool to meet him in person. And if he ever would meet me and say to me something to the effect of, this is a situation, but this is why it's funny, and then he would do his Bill Russell laugh, that would have been like a moment that I would tell my kids about, the kids that I literally have, by the way. That's one of the reasons why I'm busy. But anyway, that would be super cool for you to work with Max Middleman. So let's make it happen. What would your idea of being in the same scene where you have your character, Max Middleman has his character? What would be a fun scene in your mind to be able to play around with?
Ooh, that's a really tough one because, funnily enough, a lot of my the reason why I like Max Middleman a lot is that we have similar vocal prints, which means, I've been trying to think about how much I can and can't say here. There's been a lot of people that are looking for a Max Middleman but don't have the money for a Max Middleman, so they find me. Right.
Well, this is probably pretty common. A lot of people want Robert Downey Jr., but you can't just say, I want Robert. Like, I would love for Robert Downey Jr. to co-host my podcast with me. It's not happening. No shot.
Yeah. When you get into that higher talent, you're looking at higher budgets. You're looking at, actual union status. A lot of those things are non-negotiable. And so people come to me looking for a youthful, energetic, fun voice print, which is what Max is kind of known for. A lot of his biggest roles are kind of that voice. But I've also been dabbling in a lot of I don't want to say villain work, but I've recently been getting cast more and more in an antagonistic role. I would love to play like a batshit crazy antagonist where, Max is somehow involved in the scene as, kind of on the other side. But yeah, no, I literally, like, there's a handful of voice actors that I like keep up to date with regularly. I love them. I idolize, or not idolize them, but I definitely look up to them as kind of I want to be that skilled and in these type of projects one day. Like some of which are like Robbie Damon in A Silent Voice is one of my favorite movies of all time. Kyle McCarley as 9S in Nier Automata. That's one of my favorite video games ever. Sean Chiplock as Subaru in ReZero. J. Michael Tatum as Okabe in Steins Gate. These are all people that if I ever had the chance to work on a show with them or a game, I could die happy.
And so basically we need to get you up to union status then, I guess. That's sort of the trick there.
I need to continue on my grind set.
Yep, continue the grind set. What would be something that you worked on recently? What was sort of the character supposed to be? If you've done more antagonistic roles, is it just sort of the thing of let me explain my plan to you, good guy? Because that's what a lot of bad guys do. They love explaining things to the good guys. Is that kind of what you are used to doing recently?
So the most recent villain work I've done is tied to Hearts Like This, actually, because they were the department was trying to decide between having me in just Hearts Like Fists as the main antagonist or double casting me and giving me a smaller role in Hearts Like Fists. And so they had me doing a lot of work as Dr. X, who's this, I think the playwright actually describes him as an abomination, like an awful looking creature. And he's a serial killer. He's a doctor serial killer that injects lovers with a lethal poison to kill them while they're sleeping in bed happy because he believes that heartbreak is inevitable and he wants to kill them while they're happy. So that's some fun villain work I've gotten to do recently. Unfortunately, in the voice acting world, a lot of my current work is all under non-disclosure agreements, which sucks. So I can't talk too much about it.
That's perfectly fine.
A lot of my work has seemed to, a lot of my typecast has kind of fallen into not necessarily charming evil man, but kind of good guy led astray and now is like, what's the point? Let's fuck everything up, right? Nothing matters. That type of character. And it's like, they're a poor lost soul.
Is it bad to assume that most people that are in our age bracket have some degree of nihilism anyway? Is that what they're saying to us? They go, oh, you're young. You probably think the world's fucked up.
Yeah. I think for me, it's a lot of, I don't know why, but I can really play into the feeling of just like hopelessness, like yeah, like you said, like nihilism. Maybe it's just because Gen Z is kind of fucked. We've been through a lot of shit. We have a lot of stuff on our plate. It's like, oh, the world is gonna die soon. The temperatures are rising. There's guns everywhere. There's shootings happen every day, and it's like, what's the point? And it sucks because obviously it can get really unhealthy to play into your own personal life, throwing that into a character. It could possibly lead to you reliving traumatic moments. But I end up using that a lot of my acting is based in like, if I was this character, how would I feel like having went through his experiences, went through his moments, losing, his friends, his family, whoever, possibly, learning that his life is meaningless. Like, all of these things kind of play into like, and then trying to find the parallels in my life, right? And then basing it off of that feeling of hopelessness, that feeling of like misery, and kind of basking in it. Hopefully that makes sense.
You're talking about, okay, so what I was trained is a strong word for high school, but I took again, this is such a small scale little thing, but advanced acting. I took a little class on advanced acting. We're talking about what is the method to the madness. I would ask questions like, are you supposed to lose yourself in your character or what? And they say you're supposed to find yourself in a character. And I'd go, oh. But one of the things that they talked about was substitution acting, where they say you don't want to go method per se, where you're living out that person's life, something that Tom Hanks is known to do. And I think I wanted to say Robert De Niro for a second, but I'm getting Robert De Niro confused for Dustin Hoffman. Dustin Hoffman likes to do method, but substitution acting basically being the process of just put your feelings into the character, and that will translate into how that character is supposed to feel.
Yeah. So actually, it's funny that you mentioned that, because there's a huge misconception about method acting. So we're going to have a fun little history lesson with me very, very quickly.
Please clarify it. I need it.
So method acting actually wasn't originally living your character. It was based in teachings from Stanislavski, who was a Russian, director, actor, huge influence on theater as it is today. And method acting was his kind of theory about acting as he worked with psychologists at the time. And it was the idea of basically it's a rule of inverse, right? If you are feeling a certain way and as such you do a certain action, for example, I'm really mad at you, so I shove you as hard as I can, right? It also works in inverse. If I need to evoke a feeling of frustration, of get the hell off me, merely shoving you, even if I don't feel it then, that act will trigger those feelings in my brain, right? It can be the same thing as, let's say that you're holding someone who's supposed to be dead on stage and you're kind of rocking them back and forth, right? Or maybe it's using your two fingers and shutting their eyes. Those physical actions will promote those physiological actions will promote the psychological response in your brain. And then, so that was the original method acting, and it's true. It's proven by science. It's something that like I use, even when voice acting. Sometimes I'll mimic actions that the character is doing. Right at the time, obviously, I can't get too into it, or else then you get like cloth rubbing noises in the microphone.
Yes.
But it could be merely your stance. Maybe you're hunched over. Maybe your hands are on your hips. Maybe you're all of these things play into like what method acting originally was, and then it's kind of been amalgamated into this idea of like Jared Leto has to send his castmates dead rodents in the mail, and to play the role of the Joker, or he has to literally still be in a wheelchair on break while filming for Morbius, because Michael Morbius was like in a wheelchair before he got his like vampire powers, right? So that's the origination of method acting, right? But something that they taught me, like going off of what you said about losing yourself in the character, that's the one thing they said, like that was code red, right? There basically exists two realities as you're an actor, right? Reality one, which is the actual state of things. You're an actor on stage. There's blocking that you need to memorize. There's, when you leave the scene, when you come back to the scene, there's, all of those things. And then there's also reality two, which is your castmate is your brother, or your castmate is your worst enemy who killed your father. And basically you need to find this middle ground between being able to tap into reality too when you're discussing with like with the other, while also remembering everything from reality one, your lines, your blocking, your choreography, all of those things.
And so when you are doing voice acting work and you're trying to be able to do all of this just through your voice, I hear just the occasional bit about voice acting where I feel like a lot of people, they're getting these voice acting roles because they have a great voice. It sounds as if when they speak, they're doing something super cool off the bat. People like Jeff Bridges, how many other humans in the world can sound almost exactly the same as Jeff Bridges or Morgan Freeman or whoever? And of course, I'm not discrediting impersonation people's. You can do those things just fine, I'm sure. But I feel like a lot of people get a benefit of the doubt, but then they'll still put out something really solid, because I'll look at a movie like Surf's Up, which came out in 2007 or 2006, the same year as Happy Feet. So I guess that would be 2008. Well, you get it. It's Shia LaBeouf, it's Jeff Bridges, it's Zooey Deschanel as the three main cast for an animated movie about penguins who surf. And I always loved the voice acting work in there. And I just wouldn't have assumed that someone like Jeff Bridges, that's the person who you want to have to be like the old washed up surfer pro who's abandoned the scene, but he does a great job with it. And I'm always interested in hearing like what exactly goes into voice acting other than showing up and going me, 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 and then you get to work. So how's it for you?
So how I personally describe voice acting is that it's like standard acting, but kind of on crack. So for example, let's use Voices from Ukraine, which is a short, I don't even have to memorize the lines in Voices from Ukraine. Actually, you know what? Let's not use Voices from Ukraine because that's a little bit different. Let's use Hearts Like Fists, right? Hearts Like Fists rehearsal starts next week and it's going to run into October and then it's going to run into most of November. So more or less about 2 months of rehearsal. During that time, you need to memorize lines. You're going to get to know your castmates a lot, possibly, go out to drink with them, go out to party with them, right? Those people are going to become your friends. You're going to get to know production, right? And then at the end of the day, you have a phenomenal show that all of you guys have worked months on that you put on for an audience. Voice acting, you get into the booth. So you get the audition from your casting agent. You audition, possibly, they want more from you. You get more for you get the role, right? In the case of remote recording, you set up a date to record, you get in, and then for anywhere from the next like 2 to 4 hours, you don't know nothing. You know nothing about the project when you get into it. Sometimes you don't even know the name of the game or the animation. It's a placeholder name. Sometimes you don't even know what your character looks like. You're just given text. You're really lucky if you get a photo. And most of the time you don't even get other characters' lines, right? And then you have to run through. And you got to act fast. You got to make bold choices. You got to be good to work with the director, easy to work with. And you have to be efficient because most of the time you're going to be recording all of these things in one day. Maybe if it's like a simulcast, like if it's like an anime, you're going to be coming in every week to record. So you get more comfortable with castmates that way. But everything that I've recorded I record it all. I send it in. And then about 3 months later, sometimes, like for example, episode 2 of something I recorded for a year and a half ago came out last week.
Wow.
And I did not get to see, like, I'm the deuteragonist, right? So there's a second protagonist. I have no idea who she is, but her and my character are best friends, right? Like I've talked with her 2 times. So voice acting is very weird because you have to deliver a very authentic and convincing performance without any of the chemistry that you get in television acting, in live acting, right? So a lot of that work is using your imagination to kind of create the scenario in your head, right? A lot of what they teach in live acting is working off of the other. Every scene, your character has a goal. And then it's a matter of trying to achieve that goal through tactics. Right. And then that's how you get variation in your lines and your delivery and you work with things until you find something that's right. So you have to kind of think to yourself as a voice actor, what are my goals with this other character? What tactics should I try messing around with in my deliveries to eventually find something that the director likes and says, let's roll with that. Right. But you don't really get to see them.
So basically, when you're doing voice acting, you're playing as Link in Melee, and then live acting, you get to actually play with a high tier and actually have an easier time winning and having success playing the game.
Yeah. It's basically like that, yeah.
With
I think
a crude but somewhat accurate description.
yeah. There are definitely benefits to voice acting work. In my opinion, I'm really bad at memorizing lines. I have an awful memory, which I have to work on if I'm going to be doing live theater. But with voice acting, you have the script right in front of you. You also get the benefit of do-overs, right? Let's say you try a line and you're like, I didn't like how that was. You can say, let's try that one again. You can, most of the time that you usually indicate it by a snap or a clap. So that way in the audio file, if you're the audio engineer, you can see that there's a huge line, and then you can just cut out the line before that. But the director also is able to give you live feedback. They're like, hey, we need more projection, we need more energy, this scene needs to be a tearjerker, this scene, your character is considering suicide, right? They're able to give you all of those things that you need to eventually get the line down in the way that they're looking for.
I've heard them talk about, I've heard on the last Airbender, when I heard some of the behind the scenes stuff that Dante Bosco gets into with his co-host, and I can't remember her name, but she plays as Korra in The Legend of Korra, so I'm sorry for not remembering your name. But what I'm saying is that in their podcast about all things Avatar, they're talking about how the episodes are made and specifically how the voice acting work goes, and you usually don't play across from fellow voice actors. You have the director in the room, or if you're remote, you have them on the call, and then you just go. And so there's a lot of trust that you have to put into what that director is doing and how they want each line to sound, because what ultimately I'm impressed by the most is hearing or watching movies where it's voice acting and you can almost sense as if they were actually in the same room or playing off of each other, whereas most movies or some movies that doesn't ever happen at all. Like the actors never actually are in the same room, or they don't have like scenes where they're on the same call doing that. I guess for things like Bob's Burgers, everyone's on the same call, or they're all on the same studio room with mic'd up and doing all that fun stuff. So that comes across as well. But I'm always impressed by things like Avatar: The Last Airbender, because those characters sound like they're talking to each other, and that wasn't always the case, or not the case at all, depending on the episode.
So the way that I feel like they kind of achieve that is through pickups. So what usually happens is everybody records their lines individually, and then once everybody kind of gets, the director finds a satisfactory take of the line that they think could possibly work in the final show, they place everything in, and then they go back and they look at the nuances of when characters are speaking to one another. How believable is it that someone talks to them in this way and they respond in that way, right? And then at that point, you go in with the director, and they're like, sometimes they'll even have the audio file and they can play it for you. So that way they're not in the room, but you're like, I'm hearing this certain sass, in this line, I'm going to give a little bit of sass back, right? This character seems really upset with me. Whoa, I'm really defensive now. Like, you're getting way worked up. And like, it's different because maybe they got really, like they interpreted that line as being very worked up and getting a little bit, angry or whatever. But when you're reading it through on the paper, it's just a statement.
Yes.
Right. So you didn't know at that time. So pickups are how you get that. Oh my gosh, I don't have a pop filter on this microphone. You just heard that plosive, my bad. But pickups is how you get that kind of authenticity sound. Or there is I'm forgetting the specific name of it. Oh my gosh, my voice acting coach is going to kill me. But there is a term for a session where all of the voice actors are in the same room. A show that I know does this is Invincible on Amazon Prime.
Yep.
Where I remember seeing a behind the scenes footage where it's the three of them. It's J.K. Simmons, it's Steve Yeun, and I'm forgetting the mother actor. Oh shoot, I'm so sorry.
Yes,
and they're
so
all
sorry.
They're all in the same room, and they're
That's
going
really
through
cool.
this scene line by line. But you run into a lot of complications there because, for example, if you speak while someone else is speaking, the take is ruined. If you're moving around and your clothes makes a noise that can't be removed by audio engineers, the take is ruined. If someone breaks character because a line is really funny, The entire take is ruined. So there's a lot of difficulty in getting those set up, and there needs to be a lot of professionalism in the actors to do everything right and hopefully get it right the first within the first couple of tries.
Because you have to go through an entire episode, or at least one scene, hopefully one scene. Y'all, I want lunch, so let's please get this right. Let's get this scene right. And I bet the other people are messing up, and J.K. Simmons is going like, not my quite tempo. My tempo.
Faster.
So you do know what rhythm is.
Oh my god, I fucking love Whiplash.
I haven't even seen that movie. The only reason why I've seen that scene is because it's the most iconic scene from that movie. Everybody's, you're on YouTube, and eventually it just comes up.
Yeah,
but they also made a Melee, like a Beyond the Summit version of that, where it's wobbling. SFAT is trying to learn wobbling, and Bananas is coaching him, going, "That's not quite my wobbling tempo."
I haven't seen that. That must be so funny.
No, you should check it out. I'll link it to you. So we're getting into, so we've gotten lost in the sauce in the voice acting, and I'm interested in hearing one more question, I guess. What would be a role that you can't have, but you would love to be able to magic yourself into having it? Maybe it's being Omni-Man from Invincible, or something else, being, I guess, a protagonist from a Disney movie, whatever it happens to be in your mind. And I think I could say Persona 5 or Persona 3, or the whatever comes next for that franchise. That could be something that you would be really interested in being able to insert yourself into. But what's like the dream voice acting role for you?
The dream voice acting role for me would probably be 9S from Nier Automata, because there's three characters that I usually get casted for, right? Characters who are like kind of losing their mind. They're like starting to break. More like insane characters, right? And like very energetic, like best bro, like I don't want to say stereotype, but archetype. And then youthful, naive, full of hope protagonist is like kind of the third. And 9S combines two of them. And I'm not going to get into spoilers, but throughout the show, or throughout the game, he goes from someone who's super sweet, innocent, naive, kind, empathetic, caring, to, by the end of the game, apathetic, literally insane, a murderer, someone who has no purpose in his life. His goal is to kill one other person and then kill himself, because he's lost everything else to that matters to him. And that game also, personally, is my favorite game of like. That game made me think about things to this day, and I finished it a year ago. And so that was one that didn't get me into voice acting, but cemented that I want to do this as a job, because that game impacted me so much. I want to be able to deliver an experience like that to someone else. I want to be in like a game or an animation and have my character, like the suffering that 9S went through impacted me. I was crying over this character. I want to have that effect on other people. I want other people to like view a product or a show that I've been in, or a game that I've been in, and come out of it and be like, first of all, that game was like amazing, but what's in it for, like, what do I take away from this? For me, it was like, you don't know when things are going to suddenly disappear. You don't know when life is going to change. For me, like, to tie this back to Melee, I used to be a huge Melee grinder. Melee was the only thing in my life, and I spent so much time with it. And now that I've gotten away to college, I've started to find more things that I enjoy. I really enjoy theater. I enjoy skateboarding. I enjoy being social, which is something that I wasn't in high school. And what that game taught me was you have to enjoy every moment as if it's your last, because you don't know when things are going to change, and things change all the time. So to segue that back into Melee, right now I'm at the point in Melee where it's not the same as it was when I was 15. I can't reaction tech chase for 5 hours a day. I can't practice ledge dashes for 3 and wake up and, have practicing Melee be my whole routine. I mean, for fuck's sake, I came here 3 weeks ago and my controller still isn't plugged in. And what that means is like, I'm entering a different part of my life. And I enjoyed it for what it what Melee was, and I'm still going to continue playing Melee. But sometimes things change, and you just got to roll with the flow. Be happy with what it was.
I think that it's safe to say that Melee will be in your life in some capacity because
Forever.
you'll get to a couple tournaments a year because you're busy doing your other things. I think what's really cool is that that's for everybody. The game is for everybody. You just won't be able to grind for ranked most likely because you'll just be doing 2 shows at once, or if you're doing 3 shows next semester, whenever ranked comes out. I'm kind of thinking, I mean, in my own brain, it has to be soon. Like they keep releasing updates and just showing me this beautiful carrot that I keep chasing after. But whenever it ends up coming back, whenever it comes out, you're just not going to be in the same spot as you were before to go, all right, insta grind. You have to move on. But I thought of another, this ties into Melee, but it's still a voice acting question. I typecast you as Captain Falcon. Do you agree or disagree?
Do you typecast me as Captain Falcon?
Yes, if you were the one to redo Captain Falcon's lines for a Melee HD release, which you would not, but if you were the person and I had a whole other bunch of people to cast for this person for Kirby, this person for Pikachu, I would picture you as being my Captain Falcon. Will you be my Captain Falcon?
Oh my gosh, here, let's try this. Do you actually want me to do Captain Falcon effort noises from Melee?
If you want to do a Captain Falcon effort noise, this is probably about the most appropriate time where you go, this makes the most sense, because I'm literally asking you if you want to do 1 or 2. Just, you don't have to do the entire sound test gambit, but I was curious if you wanted to try that, or did you want to try Mewtwo? Did you want to try Young Link? Whatever you think you could do the best or that you're most suited for.
I think if Melee were to actually be redone and they were to keep the same mentality as Ultimate, where they have an English Marth voice actor, I think Marth is where my voice falls, because that kind of falls into the youthful protagonist role of like, I'm a prince that's like super, high class, and I don't even know if I'm prepared to, rule this kingdom or whatever. But I mean, let's see, like, if I'm listening to this is gonna be awful. Let's see.
Here, let me see if I could do one or 2 Falcon noises just off of the top of my head. Hold on. I'm gonna do ones that you haven't done yet. Ooh! That's dying off the side. Let me do one more. You already did the forward smash one. I'm trying to think really hard about how exactly he says Falcon Punch, because I watched that Mech clip. Remember how Mech at Shine missed the Falcon Punch against Lucky just this past weekend? But I can't hear Falcon Punch in my brain anymore because all I can hear is Walt screaming, "What are you doing?
What are you doing?" I think he says it in a very specific way. It's like, Falcon Punch! Like, it's very, like, he doesn't say Falcon. There's no pronunciation on the L.
Actually, you're right. It sounds like he's saying Falco Punch. There's like, that's it.
Yeah. I don't know whether that's a credit to the voice actor's actual pronunciation, or if that's just compression from it being like, I mean, freaking, can you take Melee out to drink by this time? Didn't it come out like September 2001?
Okay, this is a fun fact about Captain Falcon. All through the entire 5 games of Smash, they have still only used that voice actor's bits from the first recording session for 64.
Really?
Yeah, so when the trailer came out for what's that character called from the
Smash 4, Robin?
No. This character is like her arms are basically noodles from arms.
Min Min.
Min Min, yes. When Min Min trailer came out, Captain Falcon is like working in the same staff, like restaurant that Min Min is working in, and Sakurai comes back onto the screen and says, "Yeah, Min Min's a character." Fun fact: the original voice actor for Captain Falcon, this was the first time I've worked with him since 1998 or 1999, whenever it was. And if you go back and listen to every Smash game, it's the same sounds for everything, including even the Final Smash, because they wanted to do Final Smashes in 64, so they recorded him going like Blue Falcon, and they didn't use it until Brawl.
That's crazy. I didn't actually know that.
It is very cool that like it sounds fresh every game. That's cool. Yeah. I was thinking of the boop, like his jumping sound, his double jump sounds. It's literally just like boop.
Yeah, he's. I think
That's
my
about
favorite
all I
are
can
like
handle.
there's I love Mario's and Luigi's that and like the fucking it's the noises that they make is so funny. I think Melee would be worse off if every character had jump noises. Like imagine if like Falco and Fox were just like like every time they jumped.
Well, that's how it is with Sheik, by the way.
Yeah, over and over. Never forget, 22nd of February 2022 was National Sheik Day. 2222222.
This is the year of the Sheik as well. All J-Mook has to do is win one tournament, and this is officially the year of the Sheik.
Please, please, I finally want someone to win a fucking tournament with Sheik, only using Sheik. It kills me. Okay, I am not a doomer when it comes to Sheik. All of these Sheik mans are telling me, oh, you can't win a major with Sheik. Oh, Puff is 70-30. Fox is 70. Shut up. Oh my God. I genuinely think these are my hot Sheik takes.
Okay, let's go.
So first of all, Sheik beats Falco 60-40. Sheik loses to Fox 45-55. Sheik loses to Puff and Icy's also like 45-55. I think people think Puff is unwinnable. You just need to fucking grab. Like, okay, everyone's like, oh, I'm so scared to grab because I'll get rested. Then you're grabbing in the wrong spot. You can go back and look at HBox versus J-Mook at what was that major that just happened?
Are you talking about Shine or talking about Wave Dash? Because their game 10 set grand finals was Wave Dash, and then it was Shine where J-Mook 3-0'd Hungrybox.
Yeah. So if you go back to the Wave Dash set, you could see there were so many times where J-Mook could have grabbed because Hungrybox just wasn't respecting the grab because J-Mook never went for it. So anyways, let's see. What are my other takes?
But there was an adjustment because J-Mook got a decent amount of grabs against Hungrybox in the Shine set where he 3-0'd Hungrybox.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. People just like everybody wants to doomer pill Sheik, say that she's like 6 in the game. Like she has slightly losing matchups against Fox, Puff, Ices, but like she wins very handily against Marth, like 60-40. Like you could even say, nah, there's no way it's 65-35, but it is 60-40, right? I mean, versus Peach, she does well. Versus Falco, she does well. Versus Captain Falcon, she does well. Versus all of like the mid, like Yoshi, Pika, Doc, absolutely dominates. Like she has a few shaky matchups, but as long as you play them correctly, they're mostly winnable. It's hard to play Sheik Ices correctly, but if you play correctly, it's not that bad.
Mm-hmm. And I think with J-Mook, we're seeing a lot of that stuff start to come down. But I know that everybody else who plays as Sheik, whether they're playing because of J-Mook or if they've just been playing for a long time and are going like, yeah, J-Mook's finally showing what this character can do. There's probably still amount of Sheiks out there that are still doomer about it because they're going, well, even though J-Mook is so sick with it, is still not able to put it all together for one tournament run. And it is very hard to solo Sheik and come across a potential wider range of top tier or high tier, I should say, characters like Puff, Sheik, or not Sheik Ditto, sorry, Marth, Falco, Falcon, and so on, and be able to do it all. Because I thought after he beat Hungrybox, I thought there's no way that J-Mook doesn't take at least one set in grand finals versus Zane, but it didn't happen. Zane is just very, very good at this particular tournament. It's all good. But I feel so confident in saying that J-Mook will continue to show the world all these cool, interesting things, not only in the past half or so year that we've seen him play, but as we continue to go into whatever the next phase of his career is in this next year or so, however long he's going to be actively competing, hopefully a longer time than just a year. But I don't know, with some of these newer players, they tend to be here for a hot minute and then disappear, and I get mad. But hopefully we get to see a couple of major wins or super major wins with J-Mook solo Sheiking the whole time, because I thought there's no way he's not going to do Fox versus Hungrybox now after that Wave Dash, because it's game 10. What a heartbreaker, because he was up 2-0 in the second set and we all thought, oh, he's going to 3-0 Hungrybox, but then Hungrybox reverse 3-0s him, and I thought, oh, in the chair throw, I thought there's no way he's not going to try Fox. And then in Shine, just 3-0s Hungrybox, super casual, like a 3-1 stock comeback on Dreamland 7. Wow.
Whenever so Eve and I have a joke where I've beaten Akir in tournament, I've beaten Warmer in tournament. To this day, I have not beaten Eve in tournament ever. And
Oh.
I joke that like, yeah, no, it's crazy. She teases me about it all the time, but it's like, whenever we go Dreamland, I'm like, unfortunately, I'm like, okay, this game is kind of done. Like it's every other stage I feel super confident on, but versus on Dreamland, I'm like, I'm dying way too early and you're not dying fast enough.
Yes.
That being said, I did beat Lime Cat on that stage like 2 times in a row to win BMW, like one of the weeklies over the summer. So you know what? Maybe it's more possible, and I'm just not giving myself enough hope.
But everybody's not J-Mook, okay? It's not like all the Sheiks can just do what J-Mook does, because otherwise they'd be already doing it.
Very true. Although I will say, I have a hot take and then a less hot take. Hot take: Sheik is 4th in the game. Less hot take: J-Mook is winning like 2 super majors by the end. Maybe J-Mook is definitely winning a super major by the end of this year. That's my medium take.
Is J-Mook winning specifically the be-all end-all Ludwig Invitational, where all top 20 players will be in attendance, as well as like most of top 32 will all be there.
If he wins it, I'm becoming a J-Mook groupie. I'm dropping out of college. I'm gonna like follow him around. I'll be his #1 fan. It's actually
there's too many people who do that already.
It's so funny to me. There was actually, I'm pretty sure I can find the date if I direct message Discord. Let me drag over, find or start a conversation. J-Mook. Here we go. So back in 2020, April of 2021, J-Mook and I went through a bit of time where from March to April, we went over a lot of VODs together, like co-analysis of Sheik stuff. And it is absolutely crazy to me that someone I did match analysis with is like one of the top players in the world now.
Yes.
If I obviously like can't show like the DMs over a podcast, but like also I think he follows me on Twitter, unless that's changed. Yeah, okay. And it's like weird to me because when I first started back in 20, like what was it 2016, like the 5 gods were like untouchable. I never thought I'd meet any of them, and now I have a clip of Hungrybox popping off after beating me at Sob Sundays. Like J-Mook follows me on Twitter, and I've like distinctly remember going over Sheik sets with him. It's absolutely crazy how like I feel like I went from feeling like such a small member of the community where I've never touched anything, never seen anyone, and now it's like these people are people that like are either my friends or like people that I've interacted with in person. Like, I don't know. Melee's crazy.
Yes, there is a dangerous amount of accessibility to some of these players where it's maybe not necessarily the most healthy thing ever, but you got to take the good with the bad. It's also really cool that you can get to these people if you do the necessary steps, because it's not like you can just knock on their door and then go from there. You have to do a little bit of wiggling to get to top players. But the point is that it's possible, and it's so different from most communities where some top players are just downright impossible to reach, or in your case, voice acting, it's union stuff. Like, he's so cool to work with these people. Yeah, I'm like very solidly behind or below this line that cannot be penetrated. You got to punch through that ceiling with whatever it might be, a director who brings you along, the union, the whatever. I don't know the ins and outs of breaking it through to the next level of voice acting for you, but you know what that line is, and you know how hard it is to cross it.
Yeah. It's definitely something that I've been thinking about, like, how do I get past that point? I think in my, like, so currently I'm a sophomore in college. I think once I hit like junior year, higher senior year, I'm going to probably take like a pretty substantial break from all of my other hobbies and focus solely on getting as many gigs as humanly possible in voice acting to hopefully get one that's SAG-AFTRA qualification, which is Screen Actors Guild. Oh, shoot. SAG-AFTRA, what is it? Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. Basically, you have to have a certain level of like credit to like your like yourself in order to apply to be a member of SAG-AFTRA. But like my goal is to hopefully hit SAG-AFTRA union status by the time I graduate college.
Nice. Well, good for you. I hope that you're able to do that.
I think Melee gave me the confidence that if I set my mind to something and give myself enough time, I can like get to a point where I'm like proud of myself.
Yes.
Like, I don't want to say anything before the PR comes out, but I would not be surprised if I was power ranked in Maryland during this like BMW PR season. Obviously there's Bones, there's Prometheus, there's Eve, but like I could see myself being top 5. And thinking about the fact that I'm like top 5 in like what can be considered like the Maryland region. If you're in Maryland and you're not going to BMW, what's wrong with you?
Support your local TOs. Let's go, Neil.
Support your local scene. But like the fact that I could possibly consider myself to be like top 5, top 10 in like my state is like, oh my gosh, I did that. And it's like, Melee is something that I love, and I don't see myself ever not like stopping playing it. But it's something that I know like I'm never gonna be a J-Mook. I'm never gonna be a Hungry Box. But I've like learned from Melee that I can be a Max Middleman in voice acting. I can be a Kyle McCarley. I can be a J. Michael Tatum if I put my mind to it. If I do the equivalent of 5.5 hours of like practicing my tech chases, but instead it's 5 hours of sitting in my hot freaking booth back at home doing auditions all day, you know? And it's like, people need to realize that more. If you give yourself enough time and you really put yourself to something, you can do great things.
Or you could just produce almost 200 episodes of a podcast, balling in obscurity. And that's what we do here at the Bottom of Smash Mountain.
No, but you see, when you hit like, I genuinely think like even with this podcast, it doesn't matter like how many like views it gets or how popular it is. The fact is you've made 200 episodes of a podcast about the Melee community. And that is absolutely insane. That's awesome. Like you have a whole catalog of things that you can go to and say like, I did that. And it's the same thing with anything that people decide to pursue. I mean, I think it's really funny. My 3 main hobbies are Melee, voice acting, skateboarding, and obviously voice acting. I want to, you know, take it to a profession, but right now it's not my job. But each of those I'm at very different levels. With Melee, I would say I'm like hitting more, you know, that higher level, like not top level, but definitely high level.
When you're a local PR player, you're pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. With voice acting, you know, I have a coach. I have a lot of contacts and networks in the community. I've been taking workshops and master classes with like people who are kind of like that highest echelon of tier. But I'm still someone who gets non-union gigs, who gets paid like $50 for a 2-hour recording session, which is absolutely asinine. I need more than that. And then at the very bottom, we have skateboarding, which my friend Flip got me into. And in that, I just learned how to ollie, which is like the most basic fundamental trick of skateboarding, right? And it's like in one, I'm an expert, in one, I'm an intermediate, and in one, I'm a complete fucking beginner, right? But I'm going to be honest, Cypher, I kind of forgot where I was going with this.
You just put yourself to something and you're going to start to be better. You're going to start to feel growth. Yeah. You're going to get to a spot where you look back and go, wait, I've improved. I've gotten better. I'm now able to do union gigs, or I'm now able to do a kickflip. I'm now able to beat someone like you're able to beat Nunn in bracket at maybe the next pound in 2023. Maybe. Who knows? Who knows what Seven could do?
I have a clip on Nunn in my combo video, which I think is so funny.
Let's go.
I hit him with like, I forgot what the start of the combo was, but I remember he was playing Ganon and I hit him with Battlefield. I did reverse needle turnaround, falling back air to catch his up B, and then needle cancel forward aired, hit him against the wall and stage spiked him.
Very nice.
And if y'all want to check out that video, I put a lot of effort into it. I was super proud of it.
Link me so I can put it in the description of this here podcast. Link me.
Yep, I got you.
Thank you.
Let me send it your way. Dun, 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 dun.
We are starting to get up against it in terms of time, and I want to be respectful of that because you are getting less than $50, aka no dollars. So let me go ahead and roll out the red carpet for you. We have talked a little bit about how you're doing all these things, but where can the people find you? Where can they get Based 7, you know, out there in the social media world, or YouTube channel, that kind of thing? And then any closing thoughts that you have, that kind of stuff.
Okay, so you can find me at a few places. My biggest is going to be my Twitter. That's going to be 7mmg. You can find me on Instagram as my middle name. So it's going to be _Brigliadoro _BRIGLIADORO. You can find me on Twitch. Occasionally I do stream. I used to be a lot more frequent. It's something I'm hoping to get back into. You can find me at 7ssbm. And then last but not least, If you're looking for anything else that I probably have and didn't specify, you can find me at my card. I made a voice acting kind of just a website where people can find anything that relates to me. So you can find my Twitter, Facebook, Insta, LinkedIn, Casting Call Club, which is where voice actors are like intermediate voice actors kind of audition for non-union gigs. And you can even find my email if you want to send me something. Go for it, as long as it's not like my address.
The website actually would be great. It's sort of like I have a link tree, which is not a website. I'm just like link tree. Just do that. You'll see anything you want to see there.
Oh yeah, no, it's a card. Card like CARRD.
I would be interested in checking that out, because if that's a little bit spiffier than a linked tree, then maybe I'll do that instead of a link tree.
I just sent you it in DM, so feel free to check it out.
Hooray, hooray. I will do that, and it'll be linked in the description of this here podcast. For those of you who missed this live on twitch.tv/cypher0033, then you can listen to it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or essentially any podcasting platform except Stitcher, because Stitcher Premium sucks. What about YouTube if you want to watch us talking? I don't understand people who do this, but if you watch this entire thing instead of doing anything else, literally, then good for you. And you can find us there on the YouTube. Just look up Bottom of Smash Mountain, or check out the link tree. Is something Cypher003. You get it, and that's where you can find me. We're going to be moving on to episode 200 in a couple of weeks. I'm very excited for that. I will try not to preview that super hard, but it's something that's a little bit more personal. So while before I was looking for a big guest, which is happening, just not for episode 200, I'm looking forward to sharing both of those episodes with you. But for now, you're going to get to finish up here and check out all the things that Seven is doing, and joining me in rooting for them, as we're hoping that Seven takes over the voice acting world and is able to do more than an Ollie in the near future. And finally, be able to take some names at a big tournament, or just a BMW local. Shout outs to Neil. And thank you all for joining me on another episode of Bottom of Smash Mountain. For you, Seven, say goodbye, but also stick around after the outro is done, because we're going to do a thumbnail pose, okay?
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you so much for having me on. And thank you to everybody for watching this. I really appreciate you guys letting me tell my story and the things that I care about. You all are great.